Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to be taking a look at a weapon mounted light made by Nightstick, and the specific model of this light is the LGL-160. So this is a scout style of weapon light, and it is pretty much designed for rifles or carbines, but you could also run it on shotguns or something like that as well. So the light comes packaged very simply in just a box like this in a little blister pack. Inside of that box, obviously, you're going to have the light itself. You're also going to have a mount for the pressure pad, which is included. You're also going to have a tail cap option if you would rather run it that way. And you're going to have a few other things. You're going to have a offset 45-degree Picatinny mount. You're also going to have a straight Picatinny mount, which I have here. And you're going to have this little mount that is designed so you can run your wires from your pressure pad inside, just to keep everything tidy. I did not find a need for this, but it is pretty cool. They include it in the box. You've also got a little piece of hook and loop that is peel and stick in case you want to mount the pressure pad that way. And you've got several other screws, some extra screws, a couple Allen wrenches, things like that. And that's pretty much it. So the way you see the light mounted here on this upper is pretty much the way that I run all of my scout style lights, at least very similar. So I've got my pressure pad mounted here on top using the included mount. I did add some Ranger bands here, but I'll be honest, it did not need it. This pressure pad is very secure using their mount, and I really do like that. But I just went ahead and threw those Ranger bands on there just for a little bit of added security. You do have temporary on here on top, so you can press anywhere you want to on that pressure pad, and that will give you your momentary. And then you can press the button and click, and that will give you constant on. The pressure pad area here for your momentary is kind of on the small side, but it's completely functional, so that's not really a big complaint of mine. I really do like the button for the constant on because you're not going to hit that thing accidentally. You've got to mean it. You've actually got to put a pretty good bit of pressure on it to get that constant on to function. Now, of course, if you do not want to run the pressure pad, you can run the tail cap that they do provide, and it works basically the same way. You'll be able to just gently push, and that will give you momentary, or you can click for constant on. So that is an option. I do not prefer that. I much prefer running a pressure pad, and that's the way I run it on all my other lights as well. It does come with two different mounts in the box. So the other mount that I'm not using is also a Picatinny, but it is a 45-degree, and the one that I'm using here is just a straight Picatinny mount. So I've got a little section of rail added here to this key mod rail, and I've just got that bolted directly on there. You'll notice also this rifle does have a muzzle brake. Now, I do not like muzzle brakes. I much prefer the benefits of a flash hider or preferably even a suppressor. I'm not into competition shooting, so muzzle brakes just really aren't my thing. But I did put this muzzle brake on here just to test this light. So I've got the light as far out as I can get it. And I know that muzzle brake is really beating this thing up. There's a lot of concussion coming off of it. And I could think of no better way to test this light out. So that's the reason that muzzle brake is on there. At this point, I've had this light mounted up to at least 3 or 4 different rifles, and the mount seems to hold up well. I haven't had any problem with it walking loose or anything like that. Even on this upper that has this muzzle brake on it, nothing has came loose, and the light seems to work pretty well. I also don't know if I mentioned, this is a 1100 lumen weapon light, and it does have 22,000 candela. It actually has just over 22,000 candela, so that's some pretty good output. As I've said in some of my other light videos, I put a much higher emphasis on candela than lumens. It's just simply more important in my opinion when we're talking a defensive light. I know a lot of people really like to push how many lumens their light has, but they often leave off the candela, or if you can find the candela in the fine print, it's really, really low. So I'm glad to see that this light, even though it is on the less expensive side, has some decent candela. I think it's pretty obvious that this light is competing directly with some of the Streamlight offerings, such as the Streamlight rail mount HLX. So this is a 1,000 lumen weapon light with 27,000 candela, and also the Streamlight rail mount 2. So this is a 625 lumen weapon light, and it has 22,000 candela. Obviously, they have the same form factor. They're about the same size. They're also about the same weight. So I think it's safe to say this light is competing directly with these two models. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to cut the lights out here inside, and we're going to test out the output of this weapon light. And we are also going to compare it to those Streamlight models that I just showed you. Then we're going to step outside and compare it at a little bit longer range as well. Alright, so first we're going to look at the Nightstick LGL. So the wall with the deer heads that you see here is approximately 7 yards or 21 feet. And right there I've got the beam pretty much concentrated right there on that rifle. Now I've got it on the face of that right hand deer head, and now on the left hand deer head. Obviously you can really see that candela. It's got a lot of light focused in one spot, but at the same time it has a pretty good spill overall, enough that it easily lights up the room from one wall to the other. Next we're going to compare the Streamlight Rail Mount 2, shining there on the right deer head, to the Nightstick. So you can see both of them have a pretty good hot spot. They do have similar candela, but comparing the two here, looking at the Nightstick and then the Streamlight, I would have to give the slight edge to the Nightstick. You can tell it has a little bit more lumens. It just lights up the room overall a little bit better. The Streamlight does fine, don't get me wrong. I mean, the Streamlight is extremely good. Let's just be honest here. At this distance, either one of these lights are going to be pretty equal. But I can see a little bit of difference with the Nightstick, and just overall the entire room I can just see a little better. But both definitely do a good job at this distance, and they definitely would blind anyone at these ranges if that's what you're looking for. Now we're going to compare the Streamlight Rail Mount HLX there on the right to the Nightstick on the left. So I don't know how good it comes across on camera, but here you definitely can tell that the Streamlight on the right has a tighter hotspot. It just has a lot more light concentrated in one spot. There is just the Streamlight, and there is just the Nightstick. Comparing it to how they light the room up overall, I would still say that the Nightstick lights up the room better as far as the entire room, but you can definitely tell you have more concentrated light with the Streamlight. So there I'm shining it on the rifle with the Streamlight, and now on the rifle with a Nightstick. Both of these are super bright, especially at this distance. I mean, these things have a lot of blinding power. Having over 20,000 candela, the Streamlight having 27,000 plus, and the Nightstick having just over 22,000. They are definitely both super bright. So now we're outside, going to check these lights out at a little bit longer distance. So first we have the Nightstick. That lamppost there is about 10 yards away. Then we have the group of trees over there that's about 50 yards. And then we have the big rock over there by the tree. That's about 75 yards. And the wood line behind it is about 100. Right there you have a road, and all the way down to the end of that road is about 200 yards. I can see all of that. I absolutely can see at the wood line at 100 yards. I could make out if somebody was there or animal or anything like that. I can see really, really well out to 100 yards. Even down that road, if there was like a deer or something like that there, or even if somebody walked across that road, I don't think I would have any problem telling that they are there. So there we are again at 50 yards. And then obviously right here at the lamppost, it is pretty blinding how bright this light is. The next light is going to be the Streamlight Rail Mount 2. So there we have it on the lamppost, over on the group of trees, over at the rock and the wood line, and there we are down the road. So now I'm going to shine the Streamlight there on the rock, and I'm going to shine the Nightstick down the road. Now I'll shine them both here side by side. So the Nightstick being on the right and the Streamlight being on the left. So this is the Rail Mount 2 Streamlight. So this is the one that is 625 lumen, but it is 22,000 candela. So it has almost the same candela as the Nightstick. Overall, these are pretty close, but between these two, I would have to give the edge to the Nightstick. They both have the same candela, so I can see about as far going down that road, but I definitely can tell the Nightstick has a slight advantage with those extra lumens. Next, we're going to take a look at the Streamlight Rail Mount HLX. So there we have it on the lamppost, on the group of trees, over on the rock and wood line, and then down the road. So now let's check it out next to the Nightstick. So there we have the Nightstick on the right and the HLX on the left. These lights are definitely very close, but here I would have to give the edge to the Streamlight. So they both have about the same lumen, the Streamlight having 1000 and the Nightstick having 1100, but the Streamlight having the edge with the candela. You can definitely see it here. If I shine down that road there with the Nightstick, then with the Streamlight, they are very close, but I can see a little bit better down that road with the Streamlight. Overall, very comparable, but between these two, the edge will have to go to the Streamlight. Now we are looking at just the Nightstick. I will have to say all three of these lights are really good performers. They have really good candela, and they also have really good lumen. I would give the slight edge to the Nightstick with a little bit more spill, so it does have really good situational awareness. But that HLX, having those 27,000 candela, it really does show up out here. Having that additional spill and a little bit extra situational awareness is definitely a good thing. Although I do put a higher emphasis on candela, pretty much on any light, but especially a weapon mounted light. Having the ability to punch out a little bit further at distance, and also being able to possibly blind someone and make them wince if you needed to. All in all, the beam on the Nightstick is very comparable to the Streamlight, and I am pretty happy with its performance so far. Well, as you can see from the beam comparison, the Nightstick LGL-160 definitely can hold its own compared to these other Streamlight offerings. I would say overall, it is slightly brighter than the Rail Mount 2, but I would have to give the overall edge to the HLX. I believe it is still brighter than both of these other models across the board. Candela and lumens, this HLX is just hard to beat and has a lot of output. With that said, I do have a good bit of experience behind this Nightstick at this point. I have ran through several sets of batteries on this thing, testing it out down on the range in low light and absolutely no light conditions. I've shot this thing at night anywhere from 3 yards all the way back to 150 yards. You can stay tuned at the end to check out the shooting footage, and you can just see some of the things I've did with this light, testing it in low light conditions. And I would recommend it. I honestly do believe this is a good option if you're in the market for a scout style light. There's really only one negative to this light that I have found, and we'll get into that in just a minute. It is a little bit less expensive than the Streamlight offerings, so if you're looking to save a little bit of money, this would be a good option. But with that said, I do recommend this light. I do like this light, but right now, if I had to pick, I would still pick the Streamlight offerings. And I would recommend the Streamlight offerings a little bit more than I would the Nightstick. And the reason for that is just simply track record. The Streamlights have been around a long time now. They've been in the weapon light game for years, and they have a very, very proven track record. I've had access to dozens of these lights, not only mine, but friends of mine as well, and they just work. These Streamlights are just really solid performers. They're not super expensive, and it's just hard to go wrong with them. In time, I will probably say the exact same thing about the Nightstick. As I said, I've ran this thing a good bit on the range. I haven't had any problems with it. Nothing has worked loose. I haven't had any problems with it flickering or cutting off. Nothing like that. Every time I needed this light to come on, it's came on. And every time I needed it to go off, it has went off. And I say that because on some weapon lights, when it comes to your momentary on, they'll come on and everything will be good to go. But when you let go, there'll be a lag with the light going off. And that is a absolutely terrible thing. If a weapon light does that, I consider it a complete fail. But this one does not. And the reason that is when it comes to weapon lights, they need to come on instantly. As soon as you need that light, it needs to come on. But the minute that light needs to go off, it is just as important for it to go off instantly. So if a weapon light has any lag to it coming on or coming off in the pressure pad or in the push button, whichever you're using, that's a complete fail for me. I have not had any of those problems with the Nightstick, and although I do still prefer the Streamlight offerings just a little bit more, I am going to continue to run this Nightstick and recommend it to others. It's going to stay right here on this upper with this muzzle brake, and the testing will continue. So now that we've went over my experiences with this light and went over how it has performed for me, I'm now going to get into the one negative that I have found with this light. So just to speed up the process, I have pulled the light off of this upper here, and I now have the clicky tail cap installed. Most of you are probably familiar the way these scout lights mount to the base, and you have different types of mounts. Like I mentioned before, this one does come with two. So what I want to show you, and I've got these screws pre-loosened. I'm going to pull this mount off. It is really nice. Those screws do come with Loctite. Got a little lock ring there as well. So this is the one negative I have found about this light. And this is it. Normally, I run the Arisaka style mounts on pretty much all of my Scout weapon lights. I'll run something made by Arisaka. This one here is made by Haley Strategic. So sometimes I'll run their mounts, but generally I do run the Arisaka. And as you can see, it just simply does not line up. So throughout the video, you probably have heard me mention that this is a Scout style light. And the reason I kept saying that is it's not a true Scout light. None of the aftermarket mounts that I have will line up with this mount. So you can see there it's supposed to fit in those two little notches, and there's just no way. So that is a negative for me. I really like running these Arisaka mounts. I don't like running a direct Picatinny mount, which is the way that you saw it mounted here on the upper. It just adds a lot of extra bulk, and I would much rather run something like this Arisaka because it really sucks that light into the rail just to keep it nice and tight. I know that does seem like a very minor thing, and it is, but being able to run this type of mount, either in a M-LOK or maybe even a key mod configuration, it just really gets that light a lot tighter, and it also just takes away a lot of the bulk that this type of mount comes with, and it just completely removes the need to even have this Picatinny rail here. Now, I know to some of you that's not going to be a problem. If you're running a older style quad rail or you're mounting it on some other type of weapon system, mounting it direct Picatinny like that is not an issue. As far as I'm going to continue to run it, as I mentioned, on this upper. Not going to like get rid of this light because of that. But I just wanted to make you guys, that was a bug. I just wanted to make you guys aware of it. If you're planning on running this with like an Arisaka mount, which is exactly what I planned on doing, it simply will not work. After doing some research, I did find on Nightstick's website that they make a M-LOK or key mod direct mount with a 45-degree angle, just like this one, that is made for the LGL series. So it literally looks just like this Arisaka here, but the holes would be set up to mount to this LGL. And I know that that would work, and there's not really a big problem with that, but I just wish that they had went with a standard footprint so we could run the mounts that we already have. And if you're like me, if you're running different kinds of lights, so maybe it's a Streamlight or a Surefire or a Cloud Defense or something else, it would have been nice if this simply would have been set up to run that standard style of mount. So Nightstick, if you're watching, move these holes a little bit, make everything line up so we can use our regular mounts. I am not trying to be overly critical of this weapon light. Obviously, it comes in at a very attractive price point. And so far, I've got thousands of rounds downrange with this light, and I've had nothing but flawless performance. With that said, I do hold weapon lights to a very high standard, just as I do firearms. And the reason for that is I see weapon lights and firearms both as life-saving devices. So for me, that means it has got to work every single time, no matter what. So regardless of my personal opinions, when I test out something like this, I just tell you guys what I found. I tell you what I like, what I don't like, and just point out anything that I think is important. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found the information helpful. If there's anything that you would like to contact me directly for, Instagram is the best place to do so. And if you're not following me over there, I would also appreciate that as well. As always, thanks for watching. See y'all next time.